Shopify grows your business no matter how far or big you grow. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling your fans' next favorite shirt or an exclusive piece of podcast merch, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in.
Slow Burn Media and Evergreen Podcast presents Who Killed, a podcast that provides a voice for the voiceless.
Alicia Markovich was only 15 years old when she was last seen here along Dunn Avenue in Blairsville 34 years ago. Right here is Route 22, and this is where a billboard will go up next week for Markovich as her friends and family seek answers into her disappearance. The disappearance of 15-year-old Alicia Markovich in 1987 has left one of her best friends, Lori Heiner, asking why and how.
It's been uneasy for the last 34 years, not knowing where she's at and whether she's even still possibly alive. It's been difficult.
Markovich was last seen leaving her father's house along Dunn Avenue on April 26, 1987, after the pair got into an argument. She wasn't heard from again. On the 24th anniversary of her disappearance in 2011, state police announced they wanted to take a fresh look at the case. Her mother, Marcy Smith, pleading for answers.
I feel like sometimes I don't have a purpose here. Because I always wanted grandchildren, and I always wanted more children, but it never happened.
But the case remained cold more than 3 decades later. State police told me today they are looking to see if there are any new developments in the case.
We just decided, you know what, Marcy, she really never had anybody to stand beside her to help her do all this.
Heiner and another friend of Markovich, along with her mother, want to bring the case back in the spotlight to give her mother closure. Next week, this billboard will be placed along Route 22 in Blairsville. Banners will go up in her hometown of Windber, Somerset County, with the hope of finding answers and peace.
If you know something and you remember from back then, just call the hotline or call the detectives and let them know if you remember anything.
Friends are also holding a basket party on October 9th in Windber for Markovich, with the money going towards banners, yard signs, and billboards as they continue to seek justice for Alicia. Reporting in Blairsville, Caitlin Sykes, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Who Killed. I'm your host, Bill Huffman, and this is a Slow Burn Media and Evergreen Podcast production. This week I am joined by a special guest, Lori, who is here to discuss a disappearance from 1987. Thank you so much for joining the show, Lori.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
So, what case are we here to discuss?
I have a friend. She's been missing for 34 years, and we have decided that we want answers, and we want to know why nothing has been done in a long time.
And with that being said, who is your friend, and what are some of the details about her case?
Her name is Alicia Markovich. She was 15 when she disappeared. She was on a day visit with her father to Blairsville, Pennsylvania. And nobody has seen or heard from her since.
No, that's terrible. And from what research I've done, the way that the story kind of goes is that she disappeared and literally nobody saw her ever again.
No one has seen her. She hasn't contacted anybody.
So what are some of the efforts you guys are currently doing to help find this person?
We stuck a billboard up outside of her father's home, It's right along Route 22 there in Blairsville. We've just kind of attacked the social media everywhere, just putting her name and her case out there in hopes that something or somebody would know something and come forward after 34 years.
Yeah, what I was thought really interesting about the research that I was doing was what led up to her leaving the home, and that was the disagreement with her dad. And anytime you see that, and this isn't to point fingers or anything, but anytime you hear that, I mean, kind of hard not to think a little bit about what really happened.
Yeah, because she was a good student. She was an AB student, so the argument over the grades just doesn't make any sense. I mean,
so you see a disparity between what the story relayed to the police.
Absolutely,
it does not match up to what kind of person she was.
No. She was a typical teenager, a little rebellious, but we all were back then at age 15.
Everybody is at 15.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads me to the question of love. Do you feel like there's been a cover-up, or do you feel like there's just been a lack of interest?
They just went by his story. She ran away. She left the house and never looked back. It just, but she would never. She had a boyfriend in Windber. She was very popular. She had a lot of friends. She got along with everybody. I don't know a person that she didn't get along with.
And so, you said you were really good friends with her? She was one of your best friends?
Yeah.
So, okay. So walk me through what happened when she disappeared. I mean, that had to have been so traumatic and so awful for you.
It was kept hush-hush from us kids for some reason. Yeah. It's because you didn't hear a whole lot about the case after she disappeared. I mean, we saw the posters hanging up, but there was really no talk about where she was, what was going on. Was anybody trying to find her? But I do know her mom did hang posters up in Blairsville and in Windber, and her boyfriend at the time did go do a search in Blairsville looking for her. But it really was not even discussed that much with a bunch of us kids and stuff. It just wasn't.
That's so weird, because when I was a kid, we had a girl disappear from the city next door, and we were just, it was like inundated with, and that was in '89, so maybe it was just a difference in the era.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean, it's just 2 years apart, but nonetheless, it's just, I guess that's the height of stranger danger, and I'm really shocked that the police did not put like a more of an effort into finding who was responsible or where she even went.
We don't know if it's because it was a different town she disappeared from, or we have no idea.
Do you know if her father had any like connections with law enforcement or anything along those lines?
I haven't seen any of that yet.
Okay.
With any researching we've done in the background,
Gotcha.
I haven't seen any connection between him and the cops yet.
Now, do you feel like the cops have a suspect?
They always tell us that nobody's been rolled out. That's always been the answer. Nobody's rolled out.
I noticed that is their last line, is they kind of state what they state, and then they go, but nobody's been ruled out.
Yes.
So it's kind of, it's interesting because they're able to like kind of say, they're, for them to say that, I was with the kids in the background. I'm going to have to edit that out.
No, that's fine. I made mine stay in the other room.
Well, they're supposed to be upstairs being quiet, but they're not, they're kids, and that's what happens apparently. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. So Alicia disappears, and what was the date exactly? Was it the springtime or?
Yeah, it was April 26, 1987. She usually went on weekend visits with her dad. She never really had too many day visits, so we all thought it was a little kind of odd that day was picked for her to go with her father, because she also was on the high school track team, and that day they were having a car wash fundraiser for the track team, and so I just felt that was kind of weird to take her away from a school function.
So she didn't participate?
No, she went with, and her and her mother decided she was going to go with her dad that day, just because, And
Okay, so what was the relationship like? That you kind of make it sound like there wasn't much of one with her dad.
she was a teenager, so we rather at that age we prefer to be with our friends, hanging out with our school friends even, and so. But that weekend she went to a wedding the Saturday before she disappeared, and why he chose that day to take her, we can only speculate.
Yeah. So let's get back up to the fact that they kept this quiet. How did they do that? I mean, she's obviously not in school.
Yeah.
And there's got to be questions about where she went. I mean,
yeah.
At least you have those questions.
Yeah.
But
when she first disappeared, I just thought, well, she's with another friend. She's either with her boyfriend or she's at another friend's house, and then sadly, just never heard anything more.
Yeah, rarely. I mean, it's very few and far between. I mean, I can name a couple cases off the top of my head, like Brian Schaefer from Ohio State, that just kind of disappears, and you never hear from them again. And you don't have, there's no trace of them. Like, it's one thing if I know that they did a search at his house after she disappeared, but what does that mean? Again.
Yeah. From what I gathered with the search is they just kind of did a walkthrough just to see if anything looked hanky or, see if there's anything out of ordinary. And then when they didn't see anything, they just kind of went with his theory that she ran away.
Now, there's another thing that's interesting about that day is that he goes out and starts looking for her, apparently.
Yeah.
And eventually calls her mother at 1 a.m. and says, yeah. Alicia's gone.
Yeah, she's gone.
That's a weird thing to say.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I spoke to one of her friends out in Blairsville that she had back then, and he said that he never saw John that day. He never saw Alicia that day, and he was one of her close friends from Blairsville.
So there's not a lot of tracing of what the father and the daughter were up to on that day, other than what he says.
Yeah, and it's a 45-minute drive from Windber to Blairsville, so there's a lot of time.
That's just so weird. So why did what was the mother's thought about this? I mean, this just seems just like if she wasn't getting along with her dad, why would she why would she allow this to happen on a school event day? Yeah,
she never dreamed that she would never see her again when she went with her dad. She never thought this something would happen.
Yeah, of course. I mean, why would you? I mean, it's not like there was anything at that point to...
Yeah, because she and him didn't get along, but majority of the time I guess they did, but I guess going after the child support, that kind of... He was angry about that, and so they were fighting a lot about that.
Yeah, I read that, and I read that her mom said if your dad brings that up, tell him it's between us.
Yes. Yeah.
And don't get yourself involved. And good advice.
Yeah, right. That's my mom. She never got us involved in child support stuff. That was always between the adults.
Yeah. What are you doing? That's putting a lot of pressure on your child, and too much. That's not cool.
Yeah.
At all. So, that's just weird.
It is.
And so the mom, I think I read in the 25th anniversary, she was taught, she's been interviewed a number of times, but she talks about, she was raised by her grandparents, right?
Yes and no. I mean, Marcy, she was quite young when she had Alicia, but her and John were still together for at least 9 years after Alicia was born. And so...
Okay, so they had been divorced for about 6 years before she disappeared?
Before Alicia disappeared, yeah.
Wow, so she had 6 years of dealing with child support and all that stuff. That's a lot to handle, especially for her, that for Alicia at that age, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, your parents get divorced at 9, and then there's this whole child support issue. That just, as a true crime podcaster and researcher, it just reeks of, I don't know if I can believe what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's why we're asking questions, because it's just none of it just makes sense to just take it and not even look into it. It just doesn't make sense.
So they have not actually. You don't believe they've actually done their due diligence as far as trying to find her?
No, I don't. But that's not put on today's detectives. I just wish today's detectives would just kind of pick it up at the beginning and kind of look at it as a brand new case and work it as a brand new case instead of going back 34 years. Oh, well, they did this 34 years ago, so we don't have to do that now. It's like there's all kinds of new technology now that they could work with. And that's what we kind of want them to do, is just kind of look at it with new eyes.
Yeah, I noticed that they took the baby teeth and they were able to get a DNA profile. And that's very important because even if, the worst case scenario, they find a skeleton or something along those lines, they at least can find answers. And I believe I saw that the information had been loaded into the national database. Is that correct?
The Doe network, it has been, yeah. And I think the FBI database has it too. Yeah, because we've been going through Jane Doe's, and we found one that out of Monroe Township. Her name is Penny Doe. She had a lot of similarities to Alicia. And so I contacted the Doe network, and Mary there, she told me that, yeah, she has been compared with Penny Doe, and there's no match.
I mean, that's got to be very hard to handle as a friend and, being so close to her. And basically you're scouring John Doe or Jane Doe reports to compare it to your friend. That's just nobody should have to do that.
Yeah, we were a little excited with the Penny Doe one, but, it was a little disappointing they weren't a match.
Yeah, I mean, the first case that I covered on my podcast, it's, they have a little bit of DNA and they just are waiting for that technology to catch up. That's what they always say. We're just waiting for the technology to get to the point where we can use just a piece of it, not the whole thing. And they would usually just, describe it as, we've got so much of the DNA to compare it to. But again, there's not even a crime scene. So, I mean, if there was a crime scene, clearly this case would be completely different and probably solved at this point. And I mean, when I say crime scene, I mean someplace that actually, where if they're just doing a walkthrough, it's a little, they can almost dictate, the father can almost dictate what's going on within that search itself.
And a year after Alicia disappeared, he claims that his car was stolen and it was found destroyed by fire in the town next. Yeah.
All right.
Brand new 1-year-old vehicle found in the next town, burnt, destroyed.
Red flag number
Absolutely.
3. I'm counting up now.
And they just went with the theory that it was stolen. Yeah.
Oh, no. This is like, I don't want to say Keystone Cops because it's Pennsylvania, but...
Yeah. Right.
I mean, dropping the ball.
Yeah.
How big is the town? Let's start with that.
Blairsville is a small town.
Okay.
There's probably just a couple thousand people. Same with Windber. Windber's just a couple thousand people.
So is it sheriff?
Pennsylvania State.
Okay. So, okay, that's interesting. And they didn't find anything, they didn't think this was unusual. And the fact that she's never had any activity on a bank account or anything in any, trying to get a license or an ID or.
Yeah, no, nothing. they're just running with the theory that she ran away. And we all know she didn't.
That's...
Her mom's very open about her thoughts on it.
So give me some of what her mom thinks, because I would just like to hear from your perspective.
Her mom believes that John knows what happened to her. She always says the last person that saw her is the one that harmed her and is the one that knows where she's at, what they did to her. She's very open about her feelings on it.
And I noticed that she's gotten... Now, is she still involved with the investigation and stuff?
As much as she can be, yeah. She's still, with everything coming out, like, that we've been doing with the awareness, she's kind of resorted back to, she's distraught over the whole thing still. And she still grieves for Alicia.
Yeah, well, clearly. I mean, that's one of those things that you don't think you ever get over. I mean, especially when you don't have anything to go by. When you're looking at, okay, a child who gets killed, and that's okay, terrible, and you'll never get over that either. But
you've got a place to go at least,
and you have at least in your mind what happened
and where they're at,
and you can be at peace as much as you possibly can be in that situation. Talking to parents that have lost children, it's just, clearly it's something that you're going to never get over. But if you have like a place to go and mourn, I think that does help. But this situation is got to be absolutely awful. And it's good that you guys have stepped up and taken some of the pressure off of Marcy. And
she hasn't had much support over the last 34 years either. I mean, she had friends that helped her. Yeah, she's had friends help her put posters up back then. But over the past 30 years, there just hasn't been much support for her to get the word out.
I just can't believe that. Okay, what's the closest major city to Blairsville?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. So how far are we talking?
When I was home, it took us an hour to get to Blairsville, and then it takes another hour to get to Windber.
Okay.
And so it's an hour difference.
All right. That's so weird. So that's where she was living with her mom, in Windber?
In Windber, yeah.
Okay. So she goes. How often would she go and visit her dad?
I believe she had every other weekend visits.
Okay. And so she would typically stay on Saturday night, or would she stay Friday and Saturday night?
Yeah, Friday, Saturday night.
Okay.
And then she'd stay a little longer during the summertime.
So she had an okay relationship with her dad.
I don't think it was horrible, but
anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you get money and lust and love and all that stuff mixed into it, it's tough to not look at that as it's tough not to look at that and just shake your head. I mean, the whole thing seems to be like a
yeah, and it was only $100 difference that Marcy was asking for. Yeah, it was going from $100 to $200, and the hearing was that Wednesday after she vanished.
Wow.
Yeah, there's red flag number 4.
Red flag number 4. Good Lord. I cannot believe that the police did not investigate this thoroughly. Now, I saw that they did hold a press conference at the, 25-year?
Marcy had one in 2011, so yeah, that would have been 25 years.
Okay. And so...
And he never showed up for it, the father.
I saw that.
That's red flag number 5.
Yes, it is. I would agree. Now, I noticed that he moved to Ohio.
Yeah, he has a job there in a salt mine or something or other, Morton Salt Mine.
Yeah, I'm from Cleveland, so
okay. So
I'm very familiar with the salt mines under Lake Erie, and it's actually anybody who has never looked into that, it's very wild and a lot of salt.
I have looked into it. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's because I sail boats on that lake, and to think that there are people mining underneath it is so wild, and it would make sense that he would move there for his job. I did read that he still owns the house, though.
Yes.
So does he rent it then?
His wife lives in the Blairsville house.
His wife?
Yeah.
Okay, so does he...
We can call that number 6.
Well, why?
Yeah.
Why are they living apart?
Yeah, that's another weird part of this whole scenario.
Wow. This is just getting weirder and weirder.
Gatekeeper, I guess you can say.
She's the gatekeeper?
That's what I call it. That's my opinion.
Like, you feel like she's, like, holding down the fort?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I would never live apart from my husband.
So why is she staying there? I mean, that leads to some major speculations about what's in that house. So what has to happen in order to get the police to, I don't know, start asking some more questions? I noticed that with your, the billboard, when the billboard went up, there was they talked to different troopers and whatnot, and that they mentioned they were going to re-interview people. So
yeah, they did a little bit, but I don't think they did as much as we would like for them to.
Because you want them to interview her father.
Yeah, and the stepmother and anybody else that was around back then. And there's still a lot of people in that town from back in 1987.
Now, can I ask, was she married to him? The one that's living in the Blairsville house now, was she married to him?
They were dating off and on at the time.
Okay.
And then they married in 2006.
Wow, that's weird. That's weird. So they dated for almost 19 years, or before they got married? Huh. I mean, everybody's got their own pace. But I wonder if there's some connection, because the whole rule of the wife can't be forced to testify against the husband.
We thought about that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, as all all of us crime junkies do. We like to run with all the different theories that we've learned along the way.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, I've even ran around with the runaway theory for a little bit, but then I go, no, she wouldn't run away. It just, you just kind of go through everything in your head of every scenario.
Like, how would she do it at that age? It's not like she was some streetwise kid. From what I read, she was pretty much just a normal girl. Yeah, she didn't get in trouble, and she just kind of...
Yeah, no, we were just our typical rebellious teenagers back then. We didn't get any trouble with cops or anything like that. We were just, we'd stay at each other's houses and pretend like we're staying at each other's houses and stay out all night long. That's probably the...
Never did that as a 15-year-old. Trust me. Unfortunately, the first part I probably did, run into law enforcement every once in a while, but that was just being juvenile stuff, so it's all good.
Yeah.
That record's sealed.
Typical teenage stuff. She wasn't anything unnormal about a teenager. Yeah,
like, so if you say you ran with the runaway theory for a little while, where did you go with it?
Not very far. She had a boyfriend, and her and her boyfriend got along, and she had a lot of girlfriends. We all hung out off and on. She got along with everybody. There was no reason for her just to run up and run away.
So we've talked a lot about her dad's possibility being involved. Definitely lots of red flags there. Do you give any credence to the theory that she was just randomly picked up? No, your mind is pretty...
She had a boyfriend. There was no reason for her to get in a car or a truck with anybody. And her boyfriend had a car. All she had to do was call him.
Yeah, because they say she might have gone hitchhiked.
Yeah, and it's all she had to do was call her boyfriend. He drove. He had a car.
That's so... Okay. Again, red flag number 7 now. Like, what the heck are the cops doing at this point? They're not doing anything. Like, I mean, yeah, my daughter ran away. Okay.
And he just, there's the way he talks about her in newspaper articles and stuff when he was interviewed. It's just off the wall stuff.
Give me an example of that.
One newspaper article we found that he was interviewed in, he said that she was kidnapped into the sex trade and she made the most of it. And she's going to show up at his doorstep in a Cadillac or something or other, Lincoln, dripping in jewels. You know, it's just off the wall stuff like that.
Oh, that's kind of jumping to some serious conclusions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got a daughter, and if she disappeared, that's the farthest from my mind is thinking anything like that. It's just out there.
Like, so he's saying she was basically forced sex trafficking?
And she made the most of it.
And made the most of it? What the hell does that mean? That doesn't make any sense.
Right,
like,
right.
No, it's called sex trafficking. You're kidnapped. Yeah.
My daughter will never go into Mexico because I was told by a friend who works with protecting children. He said, "Don't ever take her there."
Don't
because she's blonde and blue eyed. You know.
In Mexico, you said?
He said she's worth a lot of money there, and so he said.
What a world we live in.
And so it's like you protect your my point is you protect your children. You know, you don't.
You don't go around saying that they got into the sex trade and made the most of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's where I was going with that. It just you protect your kids. You don't. It's just strange comments that were made.
That is extremely strange and disconcerting, to say the least. And what's your communication with the police? Do you guys talk to them at all? I mean, do you have like a person at the state police that you've talked to that you can kind of bounce stuff off of?
Yeah, there's Trooper Murdoch through the Indiana barracks. We call him when we have questions or any ideas that may come up.
And is he open to talking to you about it?
Oh yeah, he's very open to talking with us.
So is he the person that would be technically in charge of the case at the present moment?
I believe he is at the moment. I know there's another detective that's been looking into the case, but he's the one that we've been kind of bouncing our ideas and questions off of.
Well, that's great that you guys have at least a source, and you can say, is this a bunk lead or is this something that we should actually follow up on? Because the big story was, you guys putting up the billboard. And I have to say that you mentioned something in the beginning that you put the billboard near... it's
like 50 feet from the door that she disappeared from.
And there's a reason for putting it that close?
Oh, yeah. We all had a reason behind it.
And what kind of reaction have you had from that?
They weren't happy about it, the people that live in the house there.
Sure.
But,
was it a billboard there? Was there a billboard there anyway?
Yeah, there is. There was.
Okay, so it's just the subject matter that they have an issue with.
Yeah. If you look at pictures of it, as soon as you walk out that door, you're looking at a big picture of Alicia.
Now, I didn't see this covered in the news stories, but did they? And I just may have missed it. Did they ask you guys about that particular location?
No. The gentleman I called about it, he just gave me the price on it, and we got it all together and got it put up there. And the cops, from what I understand, they like our idea, And we also put posters up again all over Blairsville. And
I saw some were taken down. What's up with that?
Yeah, we're actually playing with the idea of putting a couple cameras up and seeing if it happens again.
So they've used that's another trick that has been used many times to catch somebody in the act. And I think that exact same thing happened with another disappearance where they caught the person that was involved taking down like the missing posters. It's like, how dumb are you with CCTV everywhere these days? It's just
and so we started putting them up inside the stores that would let us. That way they can't be removed.
Right.
And it just, and it happened actually 34 years ago when Alicia disappeared too. The posters were being removed.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, Marcy told us about that.
So Marcy would put up the posters, and next thing you know, they're gone.
They're gone. Yeah.
Now, what was his relationship with like the community? I mean, was he like let's put it this way: was he like somebody that was involved with community stuff? I mean, or
No, I don't believe he was involved in community stuff. No. And
did he have a lot of friends?
I don't believe so, because the few people that I have spoke to said that he was an SOB.
Yeah, that's so. Okay, I'm just trying to wrap my head. I'm trying to make a theory or come up with an idea of how he could have done this without anybody. I don't know. Clearly, he's gotten away with it for 34 years. If he's the person involved, please note that that's, we're just
it's hearsay at the moment.
Yes, but when you think about Occam's razor, where the simplest answer is usually the answer.
Pennsylvania State Police tell us they need substantial evidence to do anything. And that's they need a crime scene, a body. They
do, and that's unfortunate. And you can't have them chasing, like, okay, here's another red flag. The letter.
Yeah.
What was up with that?
It was supposedly, it's a hoax letter.
Sure, obviously.
I've had somebody tell me that it was written by.
Say it.
The wife. And and so I called Murdoch and asked him if it was ever tested for DNA, and he said it was. Everything came back inconclusive, so there was nothing.
Shocking.
And they looked into the person who was on the postmark on it, and they didn't know who Alicia was, where Blairsville was. Never been to that area of Pennsylvania.
That was in New Hampshire too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just when I read that seemed like, okay, he feels like they're closing in or something, and so he's going to throw out a distraction letter. And hey, this came.
Yeah, and if that's what if it was for him to be thrown off the whole case, he kind of backfired on him, because I think it made it even more obvious.
Well, it's kind of similar to what happened with BTK. BTK wanted to be. He was like, well, why aren't they covering me anymore? So he started communicating with the media, and then it's like, idiot, you're gonna get caught. And so you're right. I mean,
it's the narcissistic thoughts.
Absolutely. Like, I can talk myself out of anything.
Yeah, me too.
No, I'm just saying that's the classic, like, sociopath, like let's say you did something terrible and you're like, I got this. Like, it's just, because I'm not saying you're a sociopath. Because that's what you kind of implied there, but we're not going to go down that route.
No, I just meant that I have my conscience just wouldn't allow me to even, think about anything to do with hurting or harming somebody, or even, it's just not a normal.
No, it's not. And there's so many things about this case that sound so fishy. And you got to figure that, I mean, if something happened, it was probably a spur of the moment thing. And
I'd like to think that it was an accident of something that happened. I don't want to think that it was done on purpose.
Because I read, and that's funny you say that, or not funny, but it's interesting that you say that, because Marcy even said, like, if they even got in a scuffle, they would have been fine. And I'm thinking, like, well, wait a sec, why are they scuffling? This is a teenage girl and an adult male.
I think that's just her just trying to kind of wrap her head around the whole thing too. I don't think they ever really scuffled. I think that's just her trying to come up with some kind of theory.
Yeah, that's really I mean, it's so. How do I just say this? How can I say this without sounding? Gosh, it just seems like the police absolutely dropped the ball and aren't following up with what they need to be doing, and that is asking the right questions.
Yeah, and it's been through a lot of detectives over the years too. It's been through at least 5 or 6.
And I understand that like new cases take precedent, and it is what it is when it comes to that kind of stuff. But with all of these cases that remain unsolved in the country, you would think that they would put more effort into closing some of these cases, because you think about
there can't be that many in that area.
Right. Just pick like exactly. Pick the area of Blairsville, Windber, like start with that area and just start re-interviewing people and just go back to square one. Start with Dad, and then
since he's the last to see her, start with him and just kind of go from there.
It's like the last person to see her is always like a suspect, and then the person who discovers the body is generally a possible suspect too. They have typically in investigations, that's how they do this stuff.
Yeah, and even go back and interview Paul again, which was her boyfriend at the time. But he's been interviewed and cleared, from what I understand, anyways. But what's the harm of re-asking questions?
You never know what you're gonna remember, and I know that it's just 34 years ago, but if you get the right detective on the case and they start picking through the discrepancies, then it's not really hard to build a narrative here. I mean, I feel like the narrative is kind of written itself, and that has been written by her dad. So the fact that they take it as just proof that
at face value, they just took it at face value and didn't run with it. But things are so different today than they were back then.
Sure.
Today, it would have been completely different type of investigation.
I 100% agree. And with all the stuff that we have nowadays, as far as cameras in every location, pretty much, there's no way that she would have been, missing for this long.
No, I think if today's day was back then, she would have been found.
And if there was an issue with her dad and they did have an accident, or she had an accident and her dad just didn't want to be blamed for it and, disposed of the body, which is just a terrible thought to think of. But 34 years is a long time to carry that burden if you're that guy. And then let's say it's not him, and all this attention that's been put on him is, that's just adding insult to injury or pouring salt in the wound, whatever you want to call it.
With that being said, though, I just feel if that was the case, wouldn't he be helping us a lot more than he does?
Or wouldn't he be suing you or something like that if there was...
Helping us keep that billboard up, helping us put out flyers, helping us get the investigation rolling again.
Considering he's the last person to see her, I would agree. And he even said in the article, in one of the articles, is that, kids and parents get in fights, and I didn't think that she wouldn't come back. And it's like, all right, well, what kind of traffic comes through Blairsville that she could have randomly gotten picked up by a stranger? Because stranger abductions, as we know, are the least likely of scenarios. I mean, if you're going to get hurt by hurt by anybody, it's going to be a family member or somebody close to the family, somebody at least 9 out of 10 times.
In the Route 22 along there, it's pretty busy highway. Somebody would have seen something if she was down on that highway.
Yeah.
In the trailer park that she would have went to, it's 2 miles down the highway.
Had she ever hitchhiked?
No, I don't believe she's ever hitchhiked.
So where does that come from?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that even in 87, you knew better.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not
No.
1977.
She's a 15-year-old girl.
That's what I'm
That was
saying.
Just,
Who's putting
no,
herself? Who's putting herself out on the street like that to
yeah.
potentially get, abducted and
Abducted.
like
And,
that's.
yeah.
She's not an idiot, and she's not a kid. Like, she's not a child. She's basically a young adult at this point. And yeah, of course, we all made bad decisions when we were 15, but that's just being 15. But I don't know if going and getting some stranger's car is something that this girl would have done from everything I've read as far as her personality goes.
No. She liked to have fun. She was funky, but she wasn't stupid, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, so who are some of the people that are helping with you with this endeavor to track down Alicia?
There's a few of us were really good friends with her back when she disappeared, and then a few they grew up in our same town of Windber that are helping out. And then we have one girl, Nikki. She went to school for criminology, and her uncle was at one time involved in the case, and so that's how she got interested in Alicia's case, and she's been helping us also.
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of girls that kind of in some way are involved with Alicia's life that decided it's time to see if we can get things.
When did you guys
some kind of closure?
When did you guys form this team?
Back in August.
No,
it's only been a few months.
Okay, so you're really just getting started, and
yeah.
So there's a lot that could happen. I mean, because pressure is pressure, and as we know, what you get out of pressure. I mean, you get.
Yeah, and with social media today too, she's being seen. Her case is being seen and read and heard, and it's being covered again in the news. So she's had a lot of coverage in the past 3 months.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing is just getting the word out. And a lot of times, every time I've talked to investigators, they've always said that. And this is an Adam Walsh thing, and everybody who's listened to this show knows that what I'm about to say, and is that when you have somebody that's missing that you're close to, it's either a family member or your friend, you unfortunately have to be a squeaky wheel in order to get stuff moving because, again, like I said before, things take precedent when new cases happen and new murders happen. It's just, they only have so much people to work with, and again, it's just great that you're doing what you're doing because
I'm hoping we'll have some kind of results.
Well, I would say that Alicia would be very proud of what you guys are doing and the fact that you're putting all this effort into finding some closure for her and her family, whichever kind of closure that may be, which again, I'm using that word very sparingly because there's no such thing. Marcy will never have closure. It's an open wound for the rest of your life. But I just, I think what you guys are doing is great. And let's just hope that, there are some results from this and that, people will start contacting you. Do you have a phone number or like a tip line or an email that people can reach out?
Just to call the Pennsylvania State Police. It's their number is I think 724-357-1968. I believe it is.
And there are also some Facebook pages, right?
Yeah, we the Justice for Alicia Markovich Facebook page. That's a group one, and then we have a Remembrance page on Facebook, and then we're also on Twitter, Instagram.
What's your Twitter handle?
It's Justice for Alicia Markovich. And then we're also getting ready to be put up on uncovered.com. So she'll have a digital file up there also.
Good. Really sounds like you're doing your due diligence on this.
Yeah. Trying to cover all the bases.
Somebody has to, right?
There. Yes. Yeah.
Well, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like the listeners to know or, just anything about Alicia that you would like to share?
Just that she was a really, really nice person. She was very liked by everybody, and she deserves to be home. She deserves to have some rest also. And so if you have any information, just contact the Indiana State Police, Indiana County State Police in Pennsylvania, and let them know if you know of anything.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of times it's hard to keep things to yourself, and you never know when somebody's gonna kind of open up and share something. So, just remember that, everybody. Like, if you hear something about this case, reach out to the state police. I mean, even post something on their Facebook page if you feel like you don't want to be,
Yeah, you can message me, email me.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
What email would they? What email would they email?
Mine is pastsearcher@verizon.net.
Okay.
It's up on the website,
okay.
on Facebook and everything. So
excellent.
You can contact even through Messenger if you wanted to.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you guys got all your bases covered, got social media blanketed, and you have a billboard sitting outside of somebody's house that may or may not be involved, but it certainly is a proactive move, I will say, and definitely one that is hard to avoid.
Yeah, and it just happens to be the perfect spot.
You
don't get that very often, the perfect spot.
I tell you what, I think sometimes there are things that are meant to be, and that might just be the thing that brings this case to a close.
Yep, I am hoping. We are praying for that. We're hoping 2022 will bring her home.
Well, 2022 has to bring us something positive, so... After the past 2 years, we're really hoping for something. So, hey, there's a bunch of cases out there that I'd love to see solved, and this is one of them now. So, thank you so much for coming on. And
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for reaching out. And this is, again, people listening, this is how you can get your cases out there. If you want to reach out to me, you can always go on my website, Slow Burn Media, or whokilledamymihalovic.com. And again, I'm open to talk about any of these cases because, trying to give a voice for the voiceless is difficult, especially when the police don't seem to be very active in the investigation. So, Lori, thank you so much, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Excellent. And thank you guys so much for tuning in this week to episode 150 of Who Killed. I probably wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for the help of a lot of people, and I am very thankful to my mentors from True Crime Garage, family, all that support, friends, good stuff. And as you guys know by now, I do drop new episodes of Who Killed every Friday. If you enjoy this podcast or my other shows, you can directly support them by using my PayPal username @WilliamHuffman3, or you can contribute to the show via the Venmo app with my username @Bill-Huffman-3. Now, every contribution, big or small, does help keep these Slow Burn Media podcasts running. You can also help support the show by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Those 5 stars help keep the important cases that I cover, such as Alicia Markovich, in the spotlight. So, if you'd like to stay up to date on the cases that I have covered, as well as the new shows that I have in the pipeline, please follow me on Twitter @BillHuffman3. This case that we covered this week is really tragic, and there's not a lot of information out there. So if somebody knows something, I just support you contacting your local FBI or Crime Stoppers and sharing a tip, because it's only going to be solved when somebody decides to come forward. So, again, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, as always, be healthy and stay safe.
I want to take a moment to tell you about my podcast, Carol Costello Presents Blind Rage. In 1984, a woman named Phyllis Cottle was abducted in broad daylight, tortured, and left to die in a burning car in Akron, Ohio. At the time, I was a rookie reporter covering this horrific story. Since then, I've reported every kind of crime imaginable. I've been able to leave most of them at work, but not this one, the one that buried itself under my skin and stayed put. Phyllis Cottle was a badass woman, and I want to tell you her story. A production of Evergreen Podcasts and signature title of the Killer Podcast Network, you can find Carol Costello Presents Blind Rage wherever you get your podcasts. Discover more great true crime and paranormal programming at killerpodcast.com.
Wayfair's Labor Day clearance is back. Score up to 70% off everything home and end summer with can't-miss surprise flash deals, all with fast shipping right to your doorstep. Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 3rd.
Wayfair, every style, every home.